This is a Divi 5 Masterclass. As you know, Divi has been built from the ground up. It's now modern, it's full of amazing features, but of course, with all these features, sometimes it can be a bit more complex and a bit confusing as to what feature does what. This video covers pretty much everything. If you're on the fence about buying Divi 5, this is the video to watch because it's going to give you an overview of the power of Divi and if Divi is for you. Let's dive in and let's get started. So we're going to start off by downloading Divi 5. So I already have an account and I can go ahead now straight away and download Divi 5 from here. Now, if you haven't purchased Divi yet, I highly recommend you do so. The link to that will be in the video description below, so you can go ahead and download it. Okay, so we can see here it has been downloaded. Now I'm going to go to a new website, a brand new website. There's nothing on it. Now I need to install Divi. All right, so I'm going to come over here now to themes, and I'm now going to upload my theme, and installing it is very, very easy. I just click here on add theme, and remember I downloaded Divi a few moments ago. All I have to do is to click on upload theme and then click on choose file. I have now to navigate to where I downloaded Divi 5, and here it is. I'm going to click once on it, or I can even double click, and then I can just say install now. All right, so installing doesn't take a long time. In a moment, this is going to be complete, and then all I have to do is to say activate. So now that we've activated Divi, we have this dashboard here. If you need to get all the latest updates, you need to go in and log in and activate your license. This is the way you're going to get all your Divi updates. If you don't do this stage, you will not get your updates. But for now, I'm going to leave it as it is. The next step now is to take a look and see what the interface really looks like. So I'm going to come over here to pages and then say add page. So let's give this page a name. I'm just going to call this Divi 5 and then say use Divi Builder. Now you see this interface that we have here is the actual interface for Divi 5. Now on the outset, it may seem like it's quite simplified, and at the same time, it doesn't look like there's much going on because everything is hidden behind all these little icons. So let's start off by taking a look at this very first icon here. So if I click here, it changes to dark mode. So if you prefer working in dark mode, this is where you can just activate this and pretty much you're in dark mode. The next thing you want to take a look at here is this icon here. It's called Builder Settings. Now, Builder Settings is very important because this is where you can set up everything that you need for your builder to work the way you want. And by the way, you can just drag this wherever you want. So the first thing is, I want to have these little icons where I can undo and redo actions as I'm building my website. So if you activate it here, now take a look at this area right here. Okay, just take a look over here. If I activate it, you'll see that we now have this icon here. It wasn't there before. Let me just do a before and after. Do you see that? Let's take a look here next to where it says exit. Okay, next we have the history. If you want to have the history there as well, you can add it. You can also add import and export. Now, this is ideal if you want to, let's say, design a page and then you want to export it at some given time, maybe to share with someone else or to use that on a totally different website. Okay, we also have clear layout and add to library. Now, for me, I pretty much use add to library, clear layout, and import and export. I don't really use history and undo redo. Okay, the next setting that I usually add is the admin bar. So you can see here on the top, if I were to go to the WordPress admin dashboard, I will have to exit here, and there's a lot of things I need to click off and then go to the admin. So if I activate this, you notice now at the top here, we have the ability to add a page. We also can do quite a few things. Okay, so I'll do it before and after as well. You see that? So that's what this button does. So I really like that. So with that now, I can just hit save. Okay, now let's move on to the next item here. And the next thing is the X-ray view. Now, I can't demo the X-ray because I haven't added anything on this actual canvas. So here's the thing now. If you want to start building your site, you start off by clicking here on this button here to add a row like that. Now we're greeted with all these rows, okay? Right from the get-go, we have all these rows, and these rows are in Flexbox. Okay, now this is very important because we will see in a moment why Flexbox is important and how this is a really good upgrade from Divi 4. So if I select, let's say, these two columns like that, we now have all these modules that we can start, working with. So for example, let's say I want to add a title. I can just say title, and in here I can also add some text. So do you see how easy it is to just go in and start adding all my content? If I click on this little plus button here, it makes it easy. It makes it easier for you to just go in and add whatever you need to add. So if I click here on this plus button, this allows me to add another module. You see that? So now I have these three modules. Okay. So with these three modules over here, I can also add more items. So let's say I want to add an image. I'll just do that. Okay. So now we have this text on the left and image on the right. Now, this is a typical design that you normally see in a lot of websites. But as you can see, there's a lot that we can do here. For example, let's say you want to specify the size of this heading. Now, before, it used to be a workflow where you'd select the heading and then you'd come over here, go to the heading text, and then specify whether it's going to be a heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And you can see here, it gets smaller with the size. Now, these are the default sizes we get with Divi out of the box. And sometimes we may need to change the sizes. So typically the workflow would be, you'd come over here, you change your size maybe to 48 pixels. You hit enter and you can see it's much bigger. And then you'd come over here to the text. You do the same thing. You go to the text size, perhaps you want to set this to 16. Okay, so this way of designing is not actually the correct way of designing. Okay, so let me show you what Divi brings, which makes the designing of websites much easier. And this brings me to the next feature, which is called variables. So we're going to go to the variable manager here. So ideally, this is where you need to define all your values. And then when you start designing, you are going to now select them as you're designing. So in the future, if you need to change any sizes, there's only one central place you need to go. Now, what this allows is very consistent websites. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to come over here to numbers. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to add here is our body text. So I'm just going to label this body text like that. And then over here, I'm going to enter the size. So this is going to be 16 pixels or 1 rem. Let's use 1 rem. Okay. So now I've defined my value here. I can now go ahead and save the variable. Apply changes. So I'm good. So when it comes now to designing my sites, remember this here has the default size of 14 pixels. So let me just save and refresh this and make sure that my value has also been updated on my builder. Okay, so now I can go into my body text, and then over here now on the design tab, I can go in, and where it says 14 pixels, I can just click here, and you see now it says body text. I can set it from here. Boom. And now I have the correct size. Fantastic, isn't it? So let's say at some point you may want to change this size, but you've added the body text all over the place. So let's add, a few more areas with our body text so I can show you how amazing this is, right? And this feature here, I really love it because, when we had Divi 4, we never used to be able to do this. Okay, so again, when we come over here on this text, I'll go back, text, and then go to text, and then change this to, you click here on this little variable icon, and then you choose body text. Okay, do you see that it's updated? And this one is not. All right, so I'm going to leave this intentional like that because the next feature is going to blow your mind. All right, so let's say at some point as you're designing, you decide, you know what? 1 rem is not the right size. I want to make it slightly bigger. But you have 20 pages now on your website. Now, what Divi allows you to do is to come over here to your variable manager. You go to your numbers, and this is where you make the change. So let's say it's going to be 1.2 rem. I'm going to hit enter. Now, notice that everywhere where I entered 1 rem, the variable has updated pretty much the whole website. Okay, the whole website has been updated. So this alone is going to save you a lot of time. A lot of time, because if you can imagine trying to go to each and every page to change your heading text, that will take you forever. Okay, so our variable manager here is fantastic. So let's do this one more time. Let's say you set this to 1.1. You hit enter and you can see my text here has become slightly bigger. I'm going to save the variable, apply changes, and I am good. But if I go in and add another text module, okay, I'm going to search for it and enter it. Do you see that my size is still tiny, although my variable has updated? So that means I have to manually go again, design, text, but this time my variable is set to 1.1 rem. Do you see that over here? Which is good, right? But we don't want to do this each and every time we add text. We have to go in and, set the variable here. We don't want to do that. Now, this next feature is really awesome. So do you see we have 1.1 rem here? What we can do right away with this feature, it's called presets, is to come right over here to the top, and then we say new preset from current styles. Boom. And then right here now I can say body text. So now I can say save, but we haven't solved the problem because I still have to come here, select this, and then come over here to the top and then choose body text to get my size, right? So we haven't really, okay, we're a step further, but we haven't really solved the problem for us to be able to design our website in a much, much easier way and faster way. So what we need to do now is this little change, and that is to come here and go to the body text, right, preset, and then add a star to it. So what this does now is every time I am going to add my body text on my website, that star is going to allow me to make sure that everything is going to have the same size. Check this out. I'm going to delete this. Okay. So now let's try and add our text one more time. So I'm going to search for my text module. Boom. And do you see that? Same size. So any page I go to, even if I create a brand new section here and I want to add a text module, boom, it's going to be the right size. All right. But what's even more amazing, I know I'm spending too much time on the variables. The variables are very, very important. So let's say we decide, you know what, our size here is not right. Let's go back and change it. I can come over here to the variable manager and then go in, change this to 2.1. Oh, no, that's a bit crazy. But let's say it's 1.2. Okay. Do you see that 1.2 has been updated pretty much across everywhere text is? This is how you design websites in a super awesome way in Divi. And this feature here is a game changer. You definitely want to use this in your design workflow. Does that mean that these variables only work for text? Absolutely not. We can do this with colors. So let me just do a quick demo here and show you how to add your colors. So I'm going to use a website called Coolers. This is a really nice website which helps me choose my colors for my website. So I'm just going to cycle through all these colors and then choose a color that could work with my branding. So I think this color right here could work, but I need a darker shade. So in fact, let's choose more colors. And let's say these two colors work really well, right? So this one here is going to be my primary color. I can select it. Now, do you see I clicked here to copy? Now back over here on our variables are really amazing because we can add them in the numbers, the text, the images, the links, and then the colors, of course, and the fonts. So over here on the colors, we get 4 colors by default. And these 4 colors here are your primary color, secondary color, heading text, and body text. Okay. So what we need to do now, since we have these basic colors, we can go in and add our color that we've just copied, enter it, and you can see it's been updated. And then I can add my secondary color, copy that, come back over here, go to my secondary color and paste it. Hit enter. And for my heading text, if I want, I can make it a bit darker. So I can just increase it here. And pretty much I think I'm good. I'm going to hit save and apply changes. Okay, so now if I need to use those colors that I've just defined, I can just add them pretty much anywhere. I can go to my text here and say design. Then I can go to my heading text. So in here, you see where it says pick a color. All I have to do now, instead of coming over here to the icon picker, you don't want to do that. You want to come straight over here to your colors and select them here. Okay. Or you can click here on this variable icon and then select them this way, like that. Okay, same thing applies with the buttons. Now that I've defined the colors, you are going to find these colors pretty much everywhere as you're designing. So for example, I've selected my button here. If I activate use custom styles and then say button background, again, if I click on this little icon, I can choose my color like that. And now that's my background color. I can go to my border and choose my border color. So notice that I'm using the variable icon, and this is very, very important. So my button text here can be white. Now I haven't defined white over here. You can see that. So I would need to define white first, but if we wanted to do it quick, we would just come over here and do that. But this is not great because whenever you want to change this color from white to a different color, you have to go pretty much to every single place on your website to change that color on the buttons, and that's not a very good experience. But anyway, for the purposes of this, this is how we have our colors. And let's say I want to add a background color. I can find my background color by coming over here, and then I can also go to my content, background, and then if I click here, I can choose my color from here. You see that? Now that's my brand color. Over here for my heading, I can go in and change my heading color as well by coming over here, and instead of having it as a primary color, I can click on this little icon and then set it as, let's say, my body color. Of course, I don't have contrast. I'm just showing you as a demo. So with these colors now, what makes these colors very, very important is if I change these colors and you follow this workflow that I'm showing you, it's going to make it easier for you to do sweeping updates across your whole website. So let's say your client says we need to redesign our website and we need to use new colors. So let's choose our brand new color palette. So we are going to go with, okay, let's go with something like this. Okay, this is going to be one of our colors. In fact, this is similar to what we have. So let's go with this one here. Okay, so let's say this is now going to be our brand color to replace that. So what we need to do now is to come to the variable manager. This is where you change your colors. Okay, this is like your central command center. So you'd come over here to colors, and for the primary now, we're going to change this primary color to this new one. And you see that as soon as I change my color, it has updated anywhere that is used on the actual website, which is fantastic. So for my secondary here, that's my button. So I need to choose a color that works with the button. So I'm going to cycle through these colors here. And let's say I want to use this one. I can then go in and change this color here like that. Hit enter. And I don't know if you noticed that, but my color here has updated. So this is how Divi 5 has really changed our design workflow to make things much, much easier when we design our websites. In fact, the features that we have here are what makes Divi 5 a more professional platform to design our websites. Okay, so now that we've covered the variables here, there's also another really cool feature here, and that is your icons here. So you see, when you're in X-ray mode, right, it allows you to see where everything ends. Okay, in fact, let me get rid of this background color now. I don't really need that anymore. So I'm going to go to my background and just undo that. Okay, so you notice now when I enter the X-ray mode, it shows me where all those lines are. This is very important because sometimes you want to see where things end and where things start. And this is very, very, very important. Okay, so that's what this is used for. So you may be saying, but Mac, since the variables are important, why don't we add more items to it? And the answer to that is yes, we need to add more items to it. So for example, on the numbers here, we need to go in and add our heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and add all our values. That way, if I need to change my headings, I can just change them on one central place and then they update across the whole website. But here's the thing. In 2026, we cannot use rems, pixels, EMs, and all these values here. You can see there's a lot of them. There's rem, VH, VW, VM, Vmax, degree. I mean, there's so many, okay? The one that you want to use is called clamp. The reason why you want to use clamp is because clamp, the sizes of the text readjusts as you want, as the screen gets smaller. If you're going to do it the other way, let's say, for example, you want to design your website and you want that when this is on a mobile screen, you want it quite small. You would come over here to the mobile screen and then go into your heading text here and manually go in and adjust it. So from 48, perhaps maybe you want to go down to 36 like that. So as you can see, I'm entering all these values manually, but this is not accessible and your website will fail the accessibility test. So ideally, you want to use clamp. The good news is I have a design system that I'm giving away for free, 100% free. The link to that will be in the video description below. This will have your basic headings and your basic sizes that you need in order for your website to pass accessibility tests. All right, so let's go ahead and let's install it. So my design system that I'm giving away is called KrafterLITE. It has the basics that will get you up and running super fast. So what we need to do is after you've downloaded it, you double click on it and you're going to get this file called KrafterLITE. Okay. So what we need to do with that file now is to head over here. In fact, we need to save what we've done. Okay. And then exit from here. All right. So to install it, you want to come over here to your WordPress and then you go to Divi and then you go to your Divi library. Okay. So in your library here, you can see there's nothing here. So you want to click on import and export. You click on this little button here that says import. And then you want to select this button, this checkbox, which says import presets, and then choose files. So remember, I have my files on my desktop and I've already unzipped it. The file you want to install is called KrafterLITE.json. Just click once on it and then say open and then click on import builder layouts like that. Excellent. So you can see it's a quick install. It doesn't take time. And once you've installed it now, pretty much, I'm now going to show you how easy it is to use. So if I go back to a page here that we've already worked on, so I'm just going to say all pages, and we've been working on this Divi 5 page. I'm going to say edit with Divi. So what you'll notice now, in fact, let's get rid of the X-ray. If you now come to your variable manager like that, you're going to notice that in your numbers here, I've added all the sizes that you need, right? And it also has some spacing scale. I will explain what the spacing works like. So all your variables are there. Now it's easy for you to go in and start using this. Next, in fact, we also have our colors. You can see here, I've added more colors. So on the colors here, we have our primary, secondary, heading text, and then gray 900. And we also have our primary color values here. Now, why are these very important? Well, when you're designing, it's now going to be much easier. In fact, let's save this and apply changes. It's now going to be easier for you to design the way you want. So for example, we have our heading text here, remember? So now that we've installed our design system, and let me show you how you can use this. So first of all, let's take a look and see what has happened to our variables, because as you recall, this is the area that I said was very important. So if I come over here, you're going to notice that we have all these numbers here. So remember, we entered this 1.2 rem. We don't need this anymore because we need clamp values. So we're going to delete it here like that. So we don't have it anymore. And then what I'm also going to do here is to make sure that it's deleted as my variable over here. So there we go. It's set as the default. I'm also going to click here on the trash icon and get rid of it. And you can see here that it is gone. Okay. So now what does that mean when it comes to what we're going to use throughout our design system? Well, it means that our texts and our sizes are now in the clamp value. And you're also going to notice that we also have some spaces. We've defined our spaces so that we can separate our items the correct way. So using the same thing as well, I'm going to now come over here to my heading text. And if I come over here, you can see that this is set to heading 1. So what I'm going to do now is to come over here to the top and then set this to heading 1. And just like that, I've set my heading. If I need to add another heading, I can just go to heading here. Okay, this is the default, by the way. And let's say I want this to be a heading 2. All I need to do, making sure it's selected, is to come over here, click on heading 2, and now it has saved me time to come over here, go to my heading text, and then start messing around with these values. So all I need to do is to just come over here, add another heading text, and this time here it's going to be heading 3, so I can select it over here on the top, just like that. This is a preset-based design system, and this in itself is so powerful that it has taken away the guesswork as we design our website. So there's one more thing I need to do here as well, and that is to come over here to my text, go to design, and then I need to go to text, set my variable. Now you can see I have 1.2 rem. We don't need this anymore. I'm just going to reset this field, and then now I'm going to set this to the right variable, which is text M. Okay, so now that I have my size here, I'm just going to make sure that my line height is set correctly, and then I can come over here to the top, new preset from current styles, and then I can say body text. Now, what I've shown you here is really powerful because this is how we're going to be designing our websites moving forward. Now, the last part I want to go through with this design system that I've gifted to you is to know how to use it for spacing. Because right now, by default, you can see here the space here is pretty much uniform. This is not how we design websites, especially if you want your websites to look really, really professional. So what you would need to do is to go in and set your sizes. So I'm going to go in here into my rows, and then over here on the elements, you can see we have 2 columns. This one here has the image. This one here has the text. I'll go into the column here, which has the text. And then over here on the design, you see on the layouts here, I also have another value that comes with my free design system. It's called gap zero. Okay, now I've removed all the gaps. So what you need to do now is to come in and intentionally add your spacing. So for this space here, I'm going to go in and go to my spacing, and then I'm going to choose margin top, and then I'm going to set this to small. Okay, I'm going to come over here to the button, and then again, come over here to the spacing, and then I'm going to say margin top medium. Okay, you can see now my spacing is much better, but there's one thing that I want to show you, and that is for you to see that this is mobile responsive. Okay, so I'm going to save and publish. In fact, I'm going to preview. That's what we need to do. Preview on the front end. Okay, so you can see here that if we right click and inspect, we can now take a look and see if this text is really responsive. And you can see here the heading text is getting smaller and smaller as my screen is getting smaller. Even the text is getting smaller. You see that? And then when I do that, it gets bigger. This is what is known as responsive design out of the box. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you now about Divi is the way we can manage our pages. And this is super powerful. If you want to manage your pages, but before we go to the pages, I also want to show you something very important here while we're still on the variables. If I click here, we can see here we have our text that we get by default when you install Divi. But this is not the right font we need to use. We need to use our own. So let's go in and choose our own font. So I'm going to come over here to fonts, and notice that I'm in the variable manager here. So for my heading font, I'm going to go in and choose a font called Poppins. Select that, and you can see my heading is updated. The body text, I'm going to choose a font called Inter, like that. Hit enter, and oops, that's not the one. Let's do this one more time. Inter. There we go. Right, so now I have my body text, I have my heading set to pop-ins, and whenever you need to change your headings, you always come back over here to the variable manager, okay? And this is really, really, really powerful. All right, so let's move on to the next things that makes Divi really, really awesome. Now, before we go to the pages, we're going to go to wireframe view. Now, sometimes you may prefer to move things around using the wireframe view. For example, here you can see this is a button. You can go in here, move it, and now the button is between the text. And if you flip back over here, you can see now it has been moved, which is very, very cool. But for the most part, you don't need to use that. I mean, Divi is its visual builder anyway. So there we go. You don't really need to use that, but the option is there for you. But what I really like now about this page builder is we can actually add pages without going into the Divi back end. So if I click here on Page Manager and I click here, you see that we have this one page, okay, Divi 5. Let's say I want to add another page. Or maybe I want to duplicate this page. I can just go in and duplicate it. But I want to add a brand new page. So this one here is going to be, let's just call this a test page. So post type, you can see here it says pages, and I want this published as well. So I'm going to say add. Okay, so now I can click on this little icon to go into the test page. And without going into the WordPress admin, I've already created my page here, which is really, really awesome. So it's very, very easy to use, and I really, really like it. Now, remember, we were setting up our presets. We also have what is known as a preset manager. Okay, if I click on that, it is going to show me where my presets are. So I know my design system gave you the headings. So if I search for headings, you can see our heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And if you want to make adjustments to it, you can just click on this little pencil icon here. And what's cool about this is it gives you this interface where you can view your headings on different backgrounds. You see that? You can view this on different backgrounds. And if you want to make changes to this, you can always come over here to the design, make all your changes, save, and your preset is going to be saved. So that is what the preset manager is about. But of course, there's a lot more things that you can go in here and set presets to. You can set your presets to your accordions. You can set them to your accordion item, blogs, blurbs, and pretty much everything. All the modules can be set as presets, which is really, really cool. So at this stage here, you're probably saying, well, okay, what's really exciting about Divi? And by the way, if you're overwhelmed, I have a Divi community over at diviuniversity.com. It is free to join. In fact, you can just go to diviuniversity.com, click here on this button here, and then you can just sign up. And this allows you to join the community of, now I think it's over 2,000 people that are on this community. Here we discuss, there's a lot of updates. I do a lot of tutorials, a lot of giveaways. For example, here I gave out this layout. It is absolutely free, but of course you have to be part of the community for you to be able to get all this. Like I said, this community has thousands of people, just over 2,000, I think. So if you really want to get into grips with Divi 5, I also have a course, and this course is called Divi 5 Mastery. Okay, Divi 5 Mastery. This is where I pretty much slow down and I show you what feature does what and how to use it. And I also talk about the workflow, the proper way of using Divi 5. And this course, believe it or not, it's actually $27. Only $27. And right now, as you can see, it has more than 1,000 users, students, 1,169 students. So that's a lot of students who have taken on this course. So as you can see, Divi 5 is really, really powerful, and I highly recommend that you sign up for that course if you want to use Divi. Okay, so now let's talk about the other features. So at this stage, if I need to pretty much switch to another page, I can just come over here, and let's say I want to go back to the Divi 5 page. I can just click that, and now it takes me back to Divi 5. Okay, so this page manager here is really powerful. The next thing I want to talk about here is your inspector. Okay, this inspector is really cool because when you select it, it pretty much tells you what's really going on, and it saves you time if you want to make quick changes. So for example, let's say you want to inspect this. I can just right click and inspect, which is right here, like that. And now the inspector opens as well. And in the inspector now, it has these three little tabs. If I have any presets, I'll see the presets here, and you can see the preset is body text, right? There we go, body text. And then if we have any group options, they will show up here. For the content itself, you can quickly go in and make changes to the content over here. Okay, so let's say you want to quickly update that. You can see it has been updated. And on the styles, again, you can go on the numbers here. Now, do you see this is where we have our clamp, and this is where we have our line height. So you can quickly go in here and make all your changes. Now, while this is open, you can also choose a section, and this will show you everything on the section. So here you can see pretty much everything is there. If you want to do some quick changes, you can just go in here, do your quick changes, and pretty much it's good. So that's the inspector. Okay, that's the inspector. It is really, really good. So the next feature I want to talk about, and again, this is unique to Divi, and it is really, really amazing. Let's say we are designing our layout here, but I also want to have another area where I can experiment and see how my designs may look. I'll click on these little 4 squares, and now we're into canvas mode. Canvas mode is very powerful because I can experiment over here. So let's say I want to duplicate this canvas like that. Okay, now I can go in and start working on this duplicate. So let's say for this one here, I'm going to add a background color. So I'm going to go in to our variables. Remember, we created our variables. So I'm going to go with, in fact, you know what? Let's go with this dark gray. Okay, so as I'm designing here, I think, okay, maybe the dark mode could be better in my design. I can go ahead and save it here. Okay. So with this dark mode here, you can see I can, pretty much design as if I was using the Divi builder, right? But what makes this unique is if I want to compare between the two, you can see I have my dark mode here, and I also have the other mode here, right? So if I'm working with a client, I can design these two layouts and say, okay, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the dark mode or this one? And I can create more canvases, by the way. So let's say the client likes the dark mode. All I have to do is to, once I've had a look at it, all I have to do is to go into these 3 little dots here and then say, make main canvas. So if I do that, now this becomes the main canvas. And of course, you can go in and rename it if you want to. So to rename it, you can come over here and then you can say edit canvas. Oops, let's go back. You can go to your canvas settings, and instead of saying main, I can just call this dark mode. But of course, you can name this whatever you want. And then I'm going to say save. And you can also see this label that says main. Okay, so now I can save this page. And when I do a quick preview now, you'll notice that the preview is now the dark mode. Oops, I have to first select it and then do the preview. Okay, so if I do the preview on the front end, you can see it's the dark mode. Okay, so this just makes it easier for us to design. It gives us more things to play around with as we're designing, which is really, really amazing. The next feature I want to talk about is also a really, really powerful feature. And to be honest, when this feature was released, I was super excited. Let's just go back to our light mode. So I'm going to say make main and then select it. Okay, so for this, we're going to get rid of everything. Okay, and then start from scratch. So when you add all your modules, these are all the modules that Divi has. Okay, so one of the complaints that we had before was, these modules, they're not really enough. Okay, we need more modules. But what Divi has done now is they've allowed us to have the ability to go in and merge these modules. I'll show you what I mean. If I go in here and let's say I choose a blurb, okay? And in fact, you know what? Let's change the column structure. I want to go with, let's say 3, okay? 3 columns. And in this column here, I'm going to go in and add a blurb like that. Okay. So what we used to find very annoying is if you wanted to further customize this blurb, you can't really do that and add other items to make this really usable. So with this blurb now, I can literally select it like what I've done here. Okay. Over here now on the content, I can go to elements. Okay. You can go to add elements and I can literally go in and add, let's say, a button. And this button here is part of this blurb. And to prove that it's part of the blurb, I'm going to go into my module settings here. And then I'm going to add a bit of padding around it. So I'm going to go to design. And over here on the spacing, I'm going to say padding small. And again, this padding small feature is using our free design system that I've given you. So if I go back to the background here, I can choose a background color. And if I now go to my variable and choose this color here, you can see that the color has been applied pretty much to the whole thing. Okay. Now, I know you're probably saying, but why can't we just do this in the normal way? Now, let me show you what happens. If I were to go in and choose the same blurb, and then I add the button, the normal way we would do, you notice that these are two separate items. If I go into the wireframe view, you'll see that the blurb here is one item now. It's combined. And then here we have the blurb and the button. So this is the difference. So with this feature, as you can imagine, it is very, very powerful. You can take something as boring as, let's say, an accordion, okay? And in this accordion, if I click here, right, I can literally go into, where is it? Into the item, elements, click on this plus button, and I can actually add a video like that into this particular item. So now I have an accordion which has a video inside. I mean, how cool is that? Okay, let me just save this and do a preview so you can see what this looks like. Hopefully I'll be able to demo it. Okay, so with that now, I can choose this. Okay, I can't demo it. I would have to do a front end view. Okay, so if I click here, you see that it closes. This is how we had it, pretty much boring. It has nothing on it, but this one here has a video. I mean, this is really, really amazing. Now, you can do so many variations of the combinations of these variables. I mean, not variables, combinations of these modules. You can add, so many items. In fact, let's go back in and let's get rid of this one and let's try another one. And I'm just choosing this just from the outset. I'm not really like thinking about it. So let's go heading, and we're going to center this heading over here. And then after this heading, in fact, this heading, I want it to have, let's say, a paragraph text connected to it. I can click here on this plus button, and this is another way to do this as well. Oops. You can right click. And then what you want to do is to add elements inside. You see that? So there's add element above, add element inside, and then add element before. So I can say inside, and then the inside there is going to be, let's say, a button. Okay. And to prove to you that this is the same item, I can also come over here and you can see the heading here has a button inside. So if I want to customize this, I can go in here. I can add a background color, and you can see the color now applies to both the heading and the button. So we can literally have all these designs, right? Let's center it so it looks much better. I'm gonna go in here, go to design, layout, alignment, and center. So I can save this as an element that I can use later on as I'm designing my site. Okay. So again, if I go to content, you go to elements. If I say add element, I can add, let's say, text. And now we have texts inside the button. But of course, you may not want that, but that is how easy it is to do that. So let me just show you something very quickly here. if I go in and add element, and let's say it's text, right? We have everything here all bundled up into one item. Again, you can see that's my heading, and it's all bundled up. So this is really, really powerful. In fact, we can go in here and set our body text. Remember, we're using our variables, and we're also using our presets. So with that now, I can go in, delete that if I need to, and perhaps maybe I just want this too. I can right click and save this to the library. Okay. So in the future, if I want to use this, I can just recall it from the library, and that is really, really powerful as well, because let's say I save this as headings, description. And by the way, this is also another feature that Divi has, which is very, very powerful. I can now say add to library. So let's say I want to add that heading. I can just come over here, add from library, and here it is, heading description, and boom, use this module, and this can be consistent throughout the whole website. So the library as well is also a very, very powerful thing to use as we design our websites. Okay, so as we design, there's also another way to take a look and see how things are on your website. So if you use your layers here, this is a drill down waterfall where you can see where everything is. And when you highlight something here, it shows up over there like that. So you can see individually where everything is. So you can also use this, which makes it very, very easy to use. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is over here on the right. Okay, so let's say I select my module here. If I can go to advanced, I can go to our attributes. We can set attributes here. So you can add classes, IDs, titles. So if you want to set this to a title, you can set this to title, and so on. So all these are labels that you can add onto your elements on your page to make this easier for the screen readers to see exactly what it is on your screen. And it is also very good for accessibility. Now, there's also other features. I mean, interactions, we have interaction features here. So let's say you want something to happen when you mouse over, when you enter, when you exit, when you enter viewport. So all these are advanced features. We also have visibility. Now, what I like about visibility is you can say, okay, when it comes to this design here, in fact, let's duplicate this so that we can have 3 versions, okay? So on the second version here, I'm going to go in and add a background color. Oops. And we're going to go with this one. And then for this one here, we're going to do the same. We're going to go with this color here. Okay. So what I can do here is I can target this particular item here and say advanced. And on the visibility here, I want to say disable on desktop, disable on tablet, okay? Which means it's only going to be available on the phone. On this one here, I'm going to say disable on the tablet, on the desktop, and I want it to be visible on the tablet, okay? So if I hit save, if I do a preview now, so let's refresh this. So because this one here, I've said it needs to be disabled on the desktop and the tablet, it will not show here, okay? For this one here, I've said disable on the desktop and the phone, which means it's going to be available on the tablet alone. Let's see if that's going to work. So I'm going to right click. So we are going to now adjust our screen size, and let's see what happens when it gets to tablet. It should come on. Did you see that? It came on. And then if I continue on, we're going to get the other one when it gets to the mobile. Do you see that? Tablet, mobile. And then both of them are not there on the desktop. Again, this is a very, very powerful feature. Really, really powerful. So you can disable certain things on mobile devices, or you can disable them on other views. Next, let's talk about our next feature here. And this feature here I really, really like, because this is called nested modules. So remember, we did nested modules. Now we are going to nest all our modules together into one item, okay? And let me show you how that works. So over here, if I choose these two columns, I can group items. Okay, in fact, this is what I meant to say. We can group our modules into this group and it will appear as one complete item. Let me show you what I mean. So if I select group, in that group, I can add a heading, and you can see the group now has its own color, which is slightly different. So I can go into this group settings and you can see over here it has its own settings. So with the settings selected, I can go in here and then say spacing, and in the spacing I can say padding medium, and with that padding medium I can go to the background and add a background color. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I want you to see that everything is within the what? The group, which is this item right here. So now I can add a paragraph text, or in fact, let's do something a bit more exciting here. I'm going to add an image, and below that image, I am going to add a bit of text. And after the text, I'm going to add a button. Now you see that all these items here have all been added to this group. And you can see when I hover over here, it says group settings. So everything here is in the group settings. Next, I'm just going to go in here and just make sure that I have my body text selected so that my text and everything here is great. All right. So with that now, I can duplicate the whole group and drag it over here like that. And it has all its contents together. And this is really, really powerful. At the stage now, you can go in and add your images. So you can click here, go to image, and I don't think we have anything in the media library. So I am going to upload my files. So let's say that's the image I want to use. I can just click on upload. And now I have my image in there, which is brilliant. Again, I can save this to the library by right-clicking on it and then say add to library, save to library, like that. Okay, so I'm just going to call it my card. So let's say you want to add this design that we've just done based on the group. What you do is you'd click here on this plus button, and then you'd go into your equal columns, for example, and then you select on group. So in the group now, instead of adding any more designs, all you have to do is to say add from library. And you can see here, I've named mine K card. So you select that and then you say use this module. And this now gets imported onto the page. Now this brings us to the next feature that Divi has, which is also pretty cool. So with this now, if I duplicate this, you're going to notice that these are going to be stacked one on top of the other. If I do it one more time, it's stacked one on top of the other. This is the right time now to talk about Flexbox. So if I select my rows, now of course, you know, in our design, when it comes to Divi, everything is in the columns, okay? So if I were to come over here to layout, in fact, we need to come over here to the content. If we go to elements, this column here is what has these three items. So if I click on this little pencil icon, you can see these are the three groups, okay? The three groups. So what you do in the column view or the column mode, if you go to design and then you go to layout, this is where you start to see Flexbox. And this is really, really powerful. So let's say you want the direction of all these items here to be horizontal or row. You just select that and you can see now they're next to each other. Just like that. It's as simple as that, right? And if you want to, if you want them centered, you'd select that. But because they are pretty much the same size, you can't really see the difference. Okay. And if you want them to reverse, now I know right now you can't really see which is which, but let me just add a background color to that group so that you can see what is happening. So on the background of this one, we're going to get rid of that and add. So on this, I'm going to add a background color. But before we do that, I know I had made a mistake here. So I'm just going to get rid of this so we can do this one more time. Okay. So I'm going to duplicate these like that. And you can see they're horizontal. But what Flexbox does for us is it allows us to align our items the way we want. So for example, here I can do it in this direction. So it's one on top of the other. I can do rows going towards the right, and I can also do reverse. Now the reverse here, for us to be able to see it, I'm going to go in and add a background color to one of these. So I'm going to go back to this one here, and what color should we add on to this one? So let's go with that. Okay. And for this one, let's also change the color. Oops. We're going to go to our variable here, and we are going to add, let's go with that. Okay, this is just for demo purposes. I know this is not what I would do if I was designing it. Okay, so with that now, if I were to go back to my row settings, go to elements, and then choose the column. If I go to design, layout, and then change the direction, do you see now the colors have swapped? You see that? Of course, this one here stays in the middle, but it's this one here that is changing. But if I had more of these, right, you can see there the direction is what is changing. Now we can also do this. So with the column reverse, I can have these two bright ones on the top, or I can have them on the bottom. So that's how our Flexbox works. But of course, there's also other features here that allow us to do even more sophisticated items. But for now, I'm just going to get rid of that one and just bring my colors back to normal. The next feature I want to demonstrate is also really, really powerful. It's called the Loop Builder. Okay, so I've gone ahead and created these 3 blog posts. So remember, we created these designs right here. We can actually change this design into something so amazing. But for this, of course, we don't need all 3 of them. Okay, we just need to work on one of them. So I'm going to come over to this one here and click on this group settings. Now, if you go to contents, you're going to notice that we have loop right here. So we can actually activate loop like that. In fact, let's get rid of this one. So by default, it's taking the post type, which is equal to posts. But if I get rid of that and I go in and I start searching, I can actually loop pages, I can loop media, I can loop projects, and so on. But for now, I just want to do posts because that's what I've done. So what this is doing here is it's mirroring these 3 blog posts that I've done. But in a moment, once I've done the settings, you're going to see that we are going to have these titles, the blog posts titles. Okay, so now that we've activated posts over here, we can decide to show how many per page, and we can also choose from specific posts and so on. But we want to keep things very, very simple here. So we've chosen our posts. So what I need to do now is to come inside the items that are in the loop and start naming them, or at least, pointing them to the right direction. So for example, this first one here, if we go to the text, now what we need to do is to click on this little icon here, the dynamic content icon, and I can say loop post title, boom. And you can see these post titles now have mirrored these titles here, hello world and these 2, okay? Next, we also want to do the same thing with the image. I'm going to come over here to this image. We go to the image, you click on this little icon, and then we say loop featured image. Boom. There we go. So these are the featured images. And now we need to add the excepts. So I'm going to come over here. We go to the text. And then again, we hover over dynamic content. And we can say loop except. Okay. So now it's bringing pretty much a lot of this information here. We can define how many words we want. So I can say maybe 14 words. And that has drilled it down a little bit more, which is brilliant. So I think I'm happy with 14. I'm going to go ahead and click on apply. The next part here is the button. I'm going to go in, and over here on the button link, on the button URL, I am going to say loop link. So what happens now is when I click on this button here, it's going to take me to the actual blog post. All right. So with all that set now, I can hit save, and let's do a preview on the front end. So just like that, I was able to go in and create this loop, and it's looping through my blog posts. And if I click here, it's going to take me to the actual blog post. Which brings us another problem when we take a look at this blog post. It doesn't look great. And Divi has this feature up its sleeves. And this feature here is powerful, but to access it, we need to go into the theme builder itself. So we're going to come over here to Divi, and then we're going to come to the theme builder. So this theme builder is where we can create templates that are replicated across the whole website. So for this one here, we can add our header, footer design, header and footer design, and so on. And then here, we're going to build this from scratch, and we are going to apply this template to all the blog posts, because we don't want the blog post to look like, in fact, let's just say create template. Okay. We don't want it to look like this. This is pretty boring. Okay. So we're going to say add custom body, build custom body. Okay. So first things first, we need to define what needs to come in here. So the first thing we're going to do is to click on this plus button and add a single column. And in this column, we're going to add a heading. So I'm going to select the heading, come over here, set this to H1. Now, do you see how those presets are now working? And this is the design system, by the way, that I gave you away for free. Now, let's come over here and define this by clicking on this insert dynamic content. And we are going to say post or archive title. Boom. Okay. So far, so good. I want to say apply. The next thing I'm going to do is to center this. So I'm going to go to design, heading text, center that. Okay. The next element I am going to add is the featured image. So I'm going to say image, and I'm also going to make sure that this is set to featured image. Great. After the featured image, I'm going to go in and add another row. And in this row, we're going to add post content. There we go, post content. And with that post content selected, I'm going to come over here. Oops. I'm going to come over here and hit save so that we have everything saved so far. So for now, let's go ahead and exit from here and then save and take a look and see what change we've done already. So if I come over here, let's get rid of that and let's refresh the page, because this sidebar here is not looking great. Refresh that and boom. Now we have a full page design and there goes our text. So we can further design this and add even more elements. For example, let's say we want to add, you know, when we have our previous and next text, click here on this plus button. What is it called again? Pagination. That's what I'm looking for. You know, when you've done this tutorial for a long time, you know, sometimes you get tired and then you forget. Okay. And this text here is too wide. So I'm going to set this to 90 characters. So I'm going to go to my sizing and set this to 90 characters. There we go. My width here can be 100%. So if you want to continue on, we can also go in and add the comments like that. So at least people can see that there is a lot of action going on here. People are commenting. If I come over here to my design tab, I can also go to my spacing. And within this spacing here, I can go for padding large. Okay. And let's add a little bit of a background on the padding. Now, do you see how fast I'm moving as I'm designing this? I mean, this is what makes using a design system actually work. I'm going to hit save. And now when I come back and refresh, you'll notice that we've added more elements. Now we have this little icon. I can go back to another article, which is this one here. And I have my comments. So as you can see, this is really, really powerful, and it just makes it easier for me to design. Now, as I mentioned before, Divi has become super powerful now that we can design professional looking websites because we have all the features that we need. We have the preset manager, we have the group modules. I mean, pretty much everything we need. It now accepts clamp values, and this was ideal. This is ideal for having websites that have fluid typography. So this is very, very powerful. If you haven't purchased Divi yet, I'll highly recommend you go ahead and do so. My own website, diviuniversity.com, is actually running Divi. I've been running it from the alpha stage, and it's even getting better and better. So it's super powerful. The link to purchase Divi is in the video description below. If you purchase Divi using my affiliate link, I will give you access to the course absolutely free. And you can also join Divi University and interact with the rest of the community members. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.